There's a poor man and a rich man. The poor guy becomes rich, and the rich guy becomes poor. The poor man is on the outside, and the rich man is on the inside, until the poor man gets inside, and the rich man is outside.
Welcome to the Parable Podcast. Thanks for joining Family Life on-air host Randy Snavely as he digs into the story lessons taught by the world's greatest teacher, Jesus. In this episode, it's part one of the podcast of contrasts, the parable of the rich man and Lazarus, taken from Luke chapter 16, verses 19 to 31.
Woody Allen is a well-known movie director and actor who claims to be an atheist, but a lot of his work has religious overtones. He himself seems preoccupied with death. He stated in an interview, "The fundamental thing behind all motivation and activity is the constant struggle against annihilation and against death. It's absolutely stupefying in its terror, and it renders anyone's accomplishments meaningless." As Casmus said, "It's not only that he dies or man dies, but that you struggle to do a work of art that will last, and then realize that the universe itself is not going to exist after a period of time." The surprised interviewer asked, "But aren't you happy that you will achieve immortality through achievements?" "Who cares about achieving immortality through achievements?" Allen said. "I'm interested in achieving immortality through not dying." He also said, "It's not that I'm afraid to die. I just don't want to be there when it happens." Death. It's something we don't like to talk about much, but it is something that is going to happen to all of us. When Stuart Briscoe moved to the United States, he was impressed with the number of total strangers who visited him at his house. They were all insurance people. One of them said, "If something should happen to you, Mr. Briscoe," but Briscoe interrupted him, saying, "Please don't say that. It upsets me." The insurance guy was surprised, but tried again. "But with all due respect, sir, we must be ready if something should happen to us." "Don't say that," Briscoe said. The man was totally bewildered and said, "I don't understand what I said to upset you." "Then I'll tell you," Briscoe replied. "It upsets me that you talk about life's only certainty as if it's a possibility. It's a certainty. You don't say if, you say when, whenever death is the subject. We are all going to die. Then what? What happens after we die? Hebrews tells us man is destined to die once, and after that to face judgment. Some believe this parable of contrast, or the rich man and Lazarus, as it's commonly called, isn't really a parable at all. They think it's actually a factual event. The primary reason for that belief is a character in the story is given a name. That doesn't happen in any of the other parables Jesus tells. However, when you read the story, it becomes clear that it is a story Jesus has made up to teach spiritual truths. Luke 16, beginning at verse 19. "There was a rich man who was dressed in purple and fine linen and lived in luxury every day. At his gate was laid a beggar named Lazarus, covered with sores and longing to eat what fell from the rich man's table. Even the dogs came and licked his sores. The time came when the beggar dies, and the angels carried him to Abraham's side. The rich man also died and was buried. In hell, where he was in torment, he lifted up and saw Abraham far away with Lazarus by his side. So he called to him, 'Father Abraham, have pity on me, and send Lazarus to dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, because I am in agony in this fire.' But Abraham replied, 'Son, remember that in your lifetime you received your good things, while Lazarus received bad things. But now he is comforted here, and you are in agony. And besides all this, between us and you a great chasm has been fixed, so that those who want to go from here to you cannot, nor can anyone cross over from there to us." He answered, "Then I beg you, Father, send Lazarus to my father's house, for I have 5 brothers. Let him warn them, so that they will not also come to this place of torment." Abraham replied, "They have Moses and the prophets. Let them listen to them." "No, Father Abraham," he said, "but if someone from the dead goes to them, they will repent." He said to them, "If they do not listen to Moses and the prophets, they will not be convinced even if someone rises from the dead." You are listening to part 1 of Family Life's Parable of Contrast. It's taken from Luke 16, verses 19 through 31. There are several contrasts in this story, and then they flip-flop. There's a poor man and a rich man. The poor guy becomes rich, and the rich guy becomes poor. The poor man is on the outside, and the rich man is on the inside, until the poor man gets inside, and the rich man is outside. The poor man has no food. The rich man feasts on whatever he wants every day. But then the poor guy is at a feast, and the rich guy can't find any water. The poor man has many needs, and the rich guy has every need met. Then the poor man has no needs, and the rich guy has great needs. The poor man's audience are wild dogs. The rich man's audience are dignitaries. But that flips too. The poor man is among many dignitaries, and the rich man finds himself with the worst of dogs. The poor man suffers, the rich man is satisfied. Then that too is reversed. The poor man is humiliated, and the rich man is honored, until the poor man gets honored, and the rich man is humiliated. The poor man seeks help, and the rich man refuses to give it. Then the rich man needs help, and the poor man cannot give it. And on it goes. The poor man never speaks in this story because the story is not about him. The story's focus is the rich man and his experience in hell. As to why I believe this is a parable and not a real event, there are a few reasons. The way Jesus introduces the story is like he introduced several other parables in Luke. Now there was a certain rich man. That is a typical parable beginning. Also, nowhere else in the Bible do we read about people in hell being able to see into heaven, let alone speak to them, and vice versa. The poor man is given a name that makes total sense. Lazarus means the one whom God helps. But again, this story is about the rich man. As in other parables, no name is given to him. You have an extremely wealthy man who wears designer clothes. It makes me think of the red carpet movie stars or singers who walk out to be photographed and interviewed before the awards are handed out. Inevitably, they are asked, "Who are you wearing tonight?" And you'll hear names like Chanel, Versace, Lauren, Dior, and others. Well, that was this guy, only he didn't wait for the red carpet to come out. Every day he wore designer clothing. Every day he feasted on whatever food he wanted. He had the resources to make it happen. The Pharisees loved this guy. He was just like them. And keep in mind, Luke 16 lets us know the Pharisees were the ones listening to this story. They considered this guy their hero. In their minds, he was a righteous man because he was wealthy. That was proof God was with him and blessing him. The poor guy was extremely poor, and he's crippled. The Pharisees would have sneered at the man and considered him a sinner. God wouldn't have anything to do with him. Lazarus gets dumped at the rich man's gate by someone who was probably hoping the rich guy would help him out. Lazarus was gross and filthy. He had sores and oozing lesions all over his body. He's starving. He's hoping for some breadcrumbs falling from the rich man's table.
This has been the Parable Podcast with Randy Snavely. Click the subscribe button so you'll know when new episodes are released. And be sure to check out Family Life's other original podcasts, including If That Makes Sense, Business by the Book, and Rise Up with Steve, Therese, and Tim. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Your partnership makes podcasts like this possible. Find out more at familylife.org.